All right, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about how to stand out and grow and thrive as a private practice in a big city. I'm someone who owns a small group practice, or relatively small, in the midst of New York City, right? A very large, densely populated city with tons of therapists. And in this video, I want to teach you the practical skills and tools, the things that I do to help the practice do well and thrive in the midst of tons of competition. Because let's be honest, when you're in a big city, there are huge hospital systems, there's agencies, institutions, all with really large marketing budgets and full staff. And then you think about us as small private practice owners. Maybe we're a solo practice, maybe we have a small group practice, but nonetheless, we are relatively small compared to the major corporations we're surrounded by. And at first, this can sound really discouraging, right? How are we going to compete on Google, right? How are we going to do even Google ads, right? It's really hard to compete. How are we going to stand out when someone searches for us, maybe Google My Business, right? SEO, all that kind of stuff. And nonetheless, how's anyone going to stumble across your small practice or group practice in the sea of much larger institutions and the competition? So I hope today's going to be really practical, and I'm going to be not freestyling. I have a script, but we're doing one take here. I don't have time to be editing or anything like that. So bear with me if this is a little imperfect. Maybe it'll make us feel like we're together in a room. All right. So let me head to the script. All right. So the first thing we have to think about, and I want you to consider, is that it's not impossible. In fact, with a small group practice, it does just fine. It does well in the midst of a big city. So it's totally possible, right? We also want to set our expectations, right? If you are someone who's trying to start, a startup company, or, you're trying to be the next big corporation, right? That's going to involve a different set of strategies. But if you're someone who wants to have a thriving private practice or group practice in the midst of the larger sea of competition, it's totally doable. All right. So number one is you can do it, right? A video like this will hopefully help you do it. And then we're going to go through some practical stuff as well. All right. So the first one, and now I always balked at this, and I apologize. The air conditioner just turned on. I think I've said it 100 times now. In New York, it's humid. So we're going to have to deal with that noise. Hopefully it's not bothering you too much. But this first thing I'm going to share with you, although practical, I feel like it gets talked about a lot. It's so much that people start to ignore it, or they're like, oh, I've heard that before. But I can't make a list or a practical, actionable strategy video without mentioning this. And the first thing we do have to do is stand out, right, in the saturated market. Now, another word for this is this is the one, the niching down, right? Everyone talks about that. But let me expand on it just a little bit more, okay? Now, when it comes to, and this is going to be applicable whether you live in a big city or not. Now, when it comes to niching down, this is because if you think about it this way, let's imagine someone is searching for a therapist, right? And they're going to do the most general search, therapist near me, right? That's where you're going to see the big institutions, the agencies on Google, right? Like these big name places are going to show up on Google, search results, all that kind of stuff. And what we want to do, though, is we want to go a little bit more specific. So what's our specialty, right? Or our niche? Is it, it could be a skill or a kind of a modality you're trained in. It could be a population you work with. It could be a particular issue, right? But the point is we do want to hone in on something, not only to stand out, right? But also to make ourselves more searchable. Because now if someone Googles, let's just imagine EMDR therapist near me, this sea of people becomes a lot smaller, right? Even the institutions and agencies become smaller. And now we have a better chance of standing out. And so we want to get fairly specific and niche down. Now, this is the real trick when it comes to niching down, all right? Get ready, brace yourself. This is going to be mind-blowing. Not really, but it's hopefully practical. So the thing we want to do is we want to take an inventory of our quote-unquote specialties, right? And again, I just shared, it could be a population or whatever so you figure out what that is, and some degree that's kind of driven a bit by our passions or what we really want or what we care about, right? That's one. The second thing we want to do, and this is definitely not talked about enough, is looking for the needs of the community. What are people searching for? Right now, one way we can do this, and I've mentioned this in other videos, is something like, asking hospital social workers about where they see services lacking, this kind of thing. But another way we can do it is by doing keyword research. I know we usually think about that in terms of SEO and marketing, but what are people in New York City or your area or your town, or what are they searching for when it comes to therapy? So you can play around with the Google Keyword Planner. There's a bunch of other keyword tools as well. And you want to start typing in, you can start with therapist near me. You see what shows up. You can start playing around with the EMDR therapist near me, right? But you want to start figuring out what are the people in your area searching for in terms of therapy, what specialties. And what we really hope to find is, think about a Venn diagram. You want to find the center point between what you care about, your passions, your specialties, and what people are searching for. All of that has to be done, obviously, with honesty and integrity, right? So we do want to find that sweet spot, and then that is going to be the specialty that we, quote unquote, double down on, right? Maybe we start making a landing page about that. If we're going to run a Google ad, this is what we created on. If we build a website, maybe this is what we want to have stand out on the website, right? That niche, that specialty that is at the intersection between what we care about, our passions, and what people are searching for. Now, I also noticed that this room is getting brighter and darker. I apologize. We'll have to bear with that imperfection as well. So that's practical. Hopefully that helps. Number one, okay? Number two, we want to, I'm looking at my notes. I don't even understand what I wrote anymore. I wrote, get better results from private practice marketing. So what exactly am I talking about here? Now, what I'm talking about is the next layer, right? So we have the specialty in the niche. Now we want to market well. Now, a lot of therapists have written off different ads because they think they're expensive and they don't work, or they've had bad experiences. But we don't want to write off ads and paid marketing altogether, because it really does work. And I find that there are a couple things that usually ruin it for a therapist. Number one is the expectations. So a lot of marketing agencies or different people doing marketing work will often sell a golden ticket or a silver bullet. That expectation cannot be met, and people feel upset because now they feel like the marketing didn't work. For example, they might say, oh, I'll get you 20 cash paid clients in 20 days, or things like that. And when that can't get met, then a therapist said, well, something is wrong with the marketing, or marketing doesn't work, or whatever the case may be. So expectation setting is huge. The second thing I see is that sometimes people are trying to do it with not much knowledge about how to do it, or not much strategy, and they end up not getting many results. And so then they write it off altogether. Oh, it's too hard, I can't do it, right? But what we can do is we can actually, and I'm going to teach you a little bit here, we can run marketing campaigns, and I'm particularly talking about advertising today, like paid advertising, like Google ads or Meta ads. We can do them really effectively, right? And the first thing that we can do to get better at this is this relates to number one, is finding the keywords that people are searching for. And hopefully if we did step one correctly, we already have that. So again, maybe it's EMDR therapist near me. Maybe it is sports performance therapy near me, whatever it is. And now we can take that keyword, because we know it's what people are searching for, and we can start running marketing campaigns using this. Now, this is a very simplified approach, but it will help get the ball started, right? Because now we're not just throwing spaghetti at the wall, but we're taking something we know people are searching for, and we'll use that as the starting point for our Google ad or our Meta ad or whatever we're going to run. And this is another way to stand out, because when it comes to the larger institutions or agencies, what's happening is they are typically spending marketing dollars for things like brand awareness. So they'll bid for keywords like general therapy near me, therapy near me, right? But they're typically not going for these niche keywords like EMDR near me or ADHD therapy, right? So the more niche down we get, the less competition. And that means they're cheaper as well. And that's where you and I can compete and start to stand out. All right. So I think that that's really, really helpful for number two. I'm just seeing if I missed anything, right? And no. So, and now again, talking about paid advertising and things like that. But if you want to do SEO, right? Maybe your pages, your service pages, or the blogs you're writing, you start focusing on these keywords people are searching for. All right. And that's, it takes time, right? But you can do it that way. That's another way to stand out. And now if you're confused by the Google ad talk and all that lingo, I made another video all about Google ads. You can just type my name, Google ads, and you'll see me talking about it. So you might want to watch that first. All right. Number 3, this one, how many do I have? I've got 4 for you. So number 3, this one's really practical, but I don't see enough therapists doing it. And it's responding quickly to people who are reaching out, right? In other words, we call these leads. So when someone reaches out to you curious about your services, you want to be as quick as possible to respond, whether it be a call, a text, an email. I often see people waiting a day, waiting days, sometimes even hours is too long, right? Now imagine you're looking for a plumber, right? And you don't get them on the phone or a messaging system the first time. What do? You go to the next one. Therapy is not much different, right? Most people are not going to wait around for you to call them back. So I always encourage people to have a system to follow up with leads immediately. This is why I use a CRM, right? When someone reaches out to our practice, in a text message, a phone call, an email, all go out automatically. The phone call is not automatic. I get a message, I call. But a text, an email, all goes out automatically. We're responding within minutes, if not seconds, to almost every lead that comes through, which really helps our conversion rate, right? And so this is an easy one to fix. And one easy way to really get on top of it is to have a CRM. If you're interested in using the CRM that I use, or if you're interested in working with me for marketing, you can reach out down below. There's a link. You can set up a free 10-minute call. I can share with you more about the system I use, and I can also share with you about how I help other therapists market their practices. But that's number 3, okay? And number 4 is, I call this building a consistent presence without burning out, right? Now, people are probably gonna think social media, they're gonna think constant blog posting, and to some degree, I mean that a little bit, but what I'm really talking about is being consistent with overall marketing strategies, right? And again, in other videos, I talk specifically about different marketing strategies, but let's say, for example, you wanna do blogging and SEO, or you wanna do Google ads and manage that, or you want to do cold outreach, whatever it might be. I would encourage you to choose a few. I always encourage people to have a multimodal marketing strategy. Right now we're therapists, we can't do it all, but pick a few. And again, as we pick them, we collect data about their effectiveness and tweak as we need to. But let's say you wanted to do blogging and SEO, and you want to maybe you want to post videos, or maybe you want to do cold outreach. Let's go with that. Let's go with blogging and SEO as 1 and cold outreach as 2. You want to be consistent, right? And we also don't want to burn out. So maybe we set aside 2 or 3 hours each week to write blogs for the next month, right? And we don't have to be, pumping out content constantly. I do think that's a myth. The more consistent we can be, the better, right? And so maybe it's that you set aside 3 or 4 hours a week, or maybe once a month, and you do 4 blog posts and work on your SEO throughout your website, right? But find what's sustainable and be consistent. And then maybe if it's the cold outreach, you set aside an hour every Friday and you just respond to different ISOs or people looking for a therapist, right? I often find that people give up too quickly because they don't yield quick enough results, or they just pack themselves full with like marketing strategies because they get excited and they can't sustain it, and it ends up falling by the wayside. And we kind of have this roller coaster of marketing where we do a ton of it and then we do none of it. I want to encourage you to be consistent. It should be a consistent effort as part of your business, right? So find a couple strategies that work or that you think might work, start there, and then be consistent with them as best as you can. Now, if you need help with strategies or anything like that, that's also something I'm helping people with. Again, click the link down below. We can set up a free call and help you out. But I hope this was helpful for you. The encouragement here is that you can absolutely run a thriving practice, whether solo or group, within a large city. It is totally doable, and I'm excited that you're watching this. I'm hoping that you're more motivated now than when you first clicked on the video. But I hope you have a great rest of your day, and hopefully we'll see each other in the next video.